Hello, welcome to the Evolve Vets podcast. I'm Anna.
And I'm Bethany.
Together, let's stop revolving and start evolving.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Evolve Vets podcast. We have a very special guest today. And Geoffrey, actually, you should be very honored because you are the first man to be on the Evolve Vets podcast.
I am honored.
Yeah.
I'm very honored. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I love it. I love it.
And we're going to let you give an introduction, but for all of the women listening, it was really important for us to get Geoffrey on the Evolve Vets podcast because he has an interesting story and mission to share that's really supportive of vet med and making the space more abundant and healthy and supportive, especially for women in particular, because the field is mostly women. So we are coming to you live from a Courtyard Marriott in the Washington, D.C. area. And we're super excited to get this conversation started. It's going to be very interesting. So Geoffrey, will you give us a little introduction?
Yeah. So my name is Geoffrey. I'm an ER technician at Veterinary Emergency Group. And I have been in the field for about 20 years now. So I'm an OG and I'm old timer compared to most of the people in the field nowadays, but I have done and seen it all. And more importantly, you know, I've been through the hardships that veterinary medicine can often throw our way, and found a way through it. And I think it's important that we talk about that. Especially from a male standpoint, right? We're not supposed to feel feelings and we're supposed to always tough through it. And I am so against that. Like I told you guys earlier, I still cry 2-3 times a month with euthanasias. And I think that it's important that we address that because, you know, burnout, compassion fatigue, suicide is still too big of a topic in veterinary medicine, and we are not doing enough as a vet med unit to fight those things, or at least come together and try to fix that and make it a little bit better. So I'm here for it 100%. I have an Instagram account, shameless plug here, you know, but I go under the name Ain't Doing Right, which is very fitting for me because let's be honest, I'm not, but also a medical term. So I thought it was only perfect to utilize that. I want to bring fun back to vet med. I want to teach people that veterinary medicine can be a long-term career. I think when I first got started, it looked more like a hobby, and there wasn't a lot of credentials, and there wasn't a lot of things that made this a career. And now that I found a way to make this a career, I want to share that with everybody else. But more importantly, how to stay healthy, both mentally and physically, spiritually, and get through the tough days and be able to come back the next day and find joy in your work.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
And you're right. You brought up there's a lot of burnout, there's suicide, and people who are generally discontent with the industry. But the reason that we really wanted to have you on the podcast is because you have put forward a solution. And that's what we're trying to do with the Evolved Vets as well, is put forward another type of solution. There's no one way to solve burnout. We talked a little bit earlier about how most of the time when we practice, it's in the gray area. Nothing is black and white.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that your perspective is to bring more fun and lightness to the industry. So I want to go back in time. Can you talk to us about how you got started in the industry and maybe some of those moments that were more defining for you that really changed your trajectory to where you are now?
The way that I got into veterinary medicine was actually through a very traumatic experience. My first rescue dog ever lost a battle to what was diagnosed as lymphoma. Now that I have the medical background, I know pretty sure that it wasn't. But for 5 days, I spent 5 days in the ICU with him. I was lucky enough to be back in a kennel, and I laid with him and watched him pass away slowly. It was excruciating. But as I was in that kennel, I watched all the techs and the doctors and the assistants run around and make miracles happen out of nothing. And I said, I want to do that. And so that's when I decided to go to school. I got my degree and became certified at that point in time. And I've been in medicine ever since then. It has not been an easy road. I have struggled with mental health. depression and anxiety specifically. I've also dealt with addiction issues. I am a very proud recovering addict, and I love talking about that because there's a stigma around all of those neurodivergent issues that we deal with, especially as a dude covered in tattoos, 6'3". I'm not supposed to talk about that. Like, I'm sick and tired of us not talking about mental health, not addressing the issues that are plaguing most of us, and I'm here to just crack it wide open. So yeah, that's the biggest goal for me, is to help others that are going through the same thing I once went through and still do on a day-to-day basis. Like, it's not always easy. And some days I'm not okay. But once you figure out that it is okay not to be okay, that it is okay to feel things and you don't have to hide those feelings, the world opens up. And then you can do something about it.
What was the turning point for you? Like, what can you walk us through, like, maybe what was your low point, and then what was the turning point, and then talk about some of the tools that helped you get to the place that you're in now, where there are hard times. There are hard times for Bethany and I as well, all the time. The profession can be very rewarding. It can also be very sad,
Yeah.
and it's okay to be sad. But how do you deal with it in a better way now, so that for anyone listening who's going through something really tough, how can they see some light in the darkness?
The turning point for me was, it was when I hit rock bottom. And I honestly don't like using that term very much. You don't know what rock bottom is until you're at the top looking down. Because if you would have told me, hey, you just hit rock bottom, I'm like, did I? Because I have a shovel and a pickaxe. I'm going to make this bottom way deeper. Now that I've been able to climb out of that darkness, right, I can look down. I guess so my rock bottom was in heavy addiction. I was practicing, not necessarily under the influence, but it was the in-betweens, right? And you show up to work and you're hungover from whatever it is you did to cope with the shift before that. And it's this endless, perpetual cycle of misery. And so the turning point for me was literally, like, I was 170 pounds, soaking wet. I was fading away, dying. And I said, I got to check into rehab. Like, this is it for me. I can't do this anymore. And I'd been in the field for quite a while at this time, basically just making it day to day. And that's what you do at that point, right? You're struggling, you're trying to get through it, and you're wondering, how can I keep this up? And you can't. So I had to make some changes. The biggest thing that I did is, when I had a rough shift, I would go home and I would drink, or I would smoke, and I would escape those feelings instead of facing them head on. Facing feelings head on can be incredibly daunting, and it is much easier said than done. Some of the tools that I utilized, as I started working a program in which I had to look at my character defects, and I stopped playing the victim of my circumstances. Sure, bad things had happened to me, and I know bad things happen to lots of people, but it's a choice on whether you let those define you or not. And my biggest bit of advice is, do not let your trauma define you. There's ways out, right? The company we work for, which is fantastic, they actually offer, like, mental health help, which is a big one for me. I absolutely got therapy. I still do. I still talk to somebody, specifically somebody in the area where I was struggling, whether it was anxiety or depression. Like, I could talk to somebody who understood me, who had been through something similar to me. And again, I started doing a lot of writing that I ended up sharing with another human being, because that was important to me. I basically took all my senses, right? I wrote my stuff down, which was the touch aspect of it, the reading, and then I would share it with another individual, somebody that I trusted, somebody that I respected. And it makes you feel like, cool, I'm not alone. They understood me. They listened to me. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. So yeah, rehab was the first one. For all those of people that are struggling with addiction, I need you to know that there's a way out. If somebody like me can pull it off after 20 years of addiction, there's hope for everybody. Yes, it's not easy, but the steps to sobriety and recovery are simple. They're very straightforward. You just have to do it when you're ready. But being able to reach out to people who had been through what I had been through, and that's one thing I will always say, especially on my Instagram account, please reach out to me. I will answer. Most of the time we will jump on a phone call, and I'm here to talk about it because that's the most important thing. If we don't reach for that phone and call somebody that we can talk to, which is the hardest thing to do, that phone weighs 5,000 pounds. When you need to ask for help, it is the heaviest thing in the world. Lift that phone and call somebody, please. But yeah, those were a couple of the turning points. I don't think there's a clear turning point, right? It was just a series of events that I was like, shit, I keep sinking and I'm doing nothing to get myself out because Lord knows nobody else was going to help me either. I didn't want their help to begin with. I had it all figured out. My best thinking was it. And the minute I realized that, man, there's people out there who have actually fought their way through, and I took the cotton out of my ears and I put it in my mouth and I started listening. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do what is suggested of me. And again, life hasn't been better ever until I decided to make that choice. But there's so many resources out there that I utilized. I stopped practicing a couple things, and especially in veterinary medicine, we talked about that. There was 3 specific things that I stopped doing. First and foremost, I stopped talking down about my fellow technicians and my fellow doctors when I disagreed with them. I think we work in a field that is so cutthroat. And if somebody screws up, we are the first to either talk behind their back or go and camp up with others and be like, can you believe so-and-so did this? Instead of teaching them and being like, yo, let's have a difficult conversation. I'm going to quote Brene Brown on this one, but let's rumble. Like, let's sit down and let's actually talk. Like, I can help you get better, right? But that requires 2 things. Me not coming to you in a very attacking manner, you being able to take some critical feedback, right? So there has to be a very common ground there. So instead of teaching people how to drown before they swim, I decided that I'm going to elevate my fellow veterinary professionals to the best of my ability. And I haven't always been the best at that. I had to fail before I was able to do that and really feel it from other people as well. Like, why are you treating me like this? And that's when I decided to change that, talking bad about other vet pros outside of our hospital. We are all guilty of saying, why would they do that? Why did this doctor choose this medication? Why did they miss that diagnosis? I would love to remind everybody about how perfect everybody is, but we're not.
Yeah. We're not perfect. Shocker, everyone.
Guess what? Someone has looked at our work, whether it was your records or my IV catheter or whatever, and they've gone, what the hell were they thinking? You weren't there. You don't know what the other doctor was thinking. Listen, if a dog shows up with an ailment on Wednesday, it may look completely different on Friday, right? That doctor or that hospital, those techs may have done the right thing in that moment. You don't know what the owner was willing to agree with at that time. Like, you weren't there. Why are we so quick to throw each other under the bus? And then final, like, we have to stop talking bad about our customers, our clients. Why are they even here? It's a simple ear infection. I'm not sure about you guys, but when my dogs get hurt, I forget what I do for a living.
1000%. I like, somebody else has to do the physical exam. I'm beside
Please.
myself.
I don't know what I'm
How
doing
do I listen
anymore.
to the heart? I don't know.
Where is the heart?
Where is the heart?
I have no
Did
idea.
it simply jump to the back of the abdomen? I don't know.
Yes. I mean, when my dogs like scrape themselves and they start bleeding, my dog's blood looks different than the blood I see at work. I
So
freak
true.
out, right? So you don't know what a client is going through when they come in. If they deem this to be an emergency, guess what? It's an emergency and we treat it as such. That's how we should all be, right? You don't get to choose whether somebody gets to be upset about something or not.
Right.
Or the other side of that coin is like, wow, they've had diarrhea for 3 weeks. Why are they here now? It doesn't matter. They're here. We have to stop talking bad about each other in the hospital. We have to start talking or stop talking bad about our fellow vet med professionals outside of where we are because we don't know what they saw. We don't know what they went through. Believe it or not, we're all on the same team. We all do the same thing. We try to do the best we can. And again, the term is practicing medicine. No one does it perfectly. So if another doctor thought this was the right treatment plan, if another technician thought that this was the best way to place an IV catheter. I'm not here to shame you on how you tape that IV catheter in. I just want to make sure it works. I'm not here to shame other doctors because they made a mistake, God forbid, because we've never made mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Not one single time.
Ever.
We're absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
It's just unrealistic. So why do we get so hateful towards one another? Like,
And it sounds like if you can eliminate that behavior, like you create a safer environment for everybody and almost like release a little bit of that perfectionism too.
100%, because guess what? You're not going to be perfect.
Oh yeah, none of us are.
I hate
right.
to say
I know
it.
we're being a little bit sarcastic, but for anybody who didn't catch that
Yeah.
from the live video, we obviously all have the days that we make mistakes or don't do something in the right way.
Yeah.
So it's
Three
a good thing to
12-hour
call
shifts
out.
in a row, and you think we're going to be perfect, especially my night crawlers, my overnight crew, the feral ones. You know who I'm
The
talking
feral
about.
ones. We love them.
I'm a late swing shifter, so listen, I consider myself part of that. Okay, I get to kind of poke fun at that, but it's like, dude, at 6:30 in the morning, when you've done 3 surgeries and you've seen patients all day long and clients have been yelling at you and you are covered in God knows what bodily fluid, I shouldn't even be driving home at that point. All right. And it's like, yeah, we should be practicing perfect medicine. And how dare we miss a trash can we didn't empty out, or how dare we not do this or that right? And yeah, who's going to come down on us? We are.
Yeah.
We are our
Mm.
biggest enemies in veterinary medicine. It's not anybody else. It is us. It's ourselves. So I think if we try to change those 3 things, if each person did 1% better in all of those areas, veterinary medicine wouldn't be coined toxic. And I honestly think we have most of it to blame on ourselves. And that's a huge bummer to me. Like, we've got to change that. And we've got to look at ourselves. Like I said, we have to look at what we do wrong and be able to change it and be willing to change it.
I completely agree. Perfectionism is rising and present in veterinary medicine. I'm a perfectionist as well. I know that we all have those tendencies, the type A, the high achiever, like it's natural, right? You
Yeah.
need certain grades to become a great vet nurse and a great veterinarian. And so performance is part of that process.
Yeah.
And so can you tell us like a little bit about what you've seen in the field when it comes to perfectionistic tendencies and maybe some of the things that follow from that? For example, like the anxiety and depression that you were talking about earlier too.
I think anxiety especially comes from that, right? If you're always striving to be perfect in everything, it is a matter of time, if not consistent, that you will be let down by yourself. There is no such thing as perfect in any area of life. And unfortunately, the culture we live in today, right? Like, we're watching Instagram and everybody shows the highlights of their life and how perfect everything is. And these people are working out with their perfect bodies. And like, even maybe you watch some of my Instagram stuff and they're like, wow, they did that case perfect, right? It's not. None of it is perfect. One of my favorite quotes of all time is Mike Tyson, is that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Right? Your plan can be perfect.
That's so true.
It's 100% like real. Your plan can be perfect. And especially as a shift lead, right? We have 8 things on the board. We have 3 procedures. We have a surgery. Okay, let's do this first. Let's do that second. Just wait, because 5 more things are going to come in. One nurse is going to get bit. The other one is going to twist an ankle. Then we have personalities that come into it. Like, there's just no perfect plan for any situation. I think especially for my new veterinarians out there, one of the biggest things is like they have to write these really long, thorough records. I got to make sure I hit everything and I'll never be pulled in front of the board. I'll never get sued. You will. I'm sorry. It's a matter of time. I have been a part of several board cases where somebody who was upset with what they did or didn't get, like, it just happens no matter how long your records are. So you have a choice, right? You can spend 3 weeks catching up on records because you're so behind, or you can do the best that you can and give yourself some type of peace in all of it, because you're not going to get them perfect. Again, being a perfectionist, I've seen doctors that have beat themselves up so much They go home, they don't get any sleep because they're wondering if they tied that one pedicle off good enough and if those sutures are going to hold. And of course, we want to do the best that we can, but perfect, there's too many factors that come into medicine that aren't perfect. Yes, we should practice the best possible medicine and we should always do everything we can to make it as close to perfect as possible. But if you expect that, expectations lead to resentments, expectations lead to letdowns.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious if those two topics like mend in some way, like how you're saying, oh, like don't talk bad about like the referring veterinarian or something like that. And then this idea of our own personal expectations can cripple us or create anxiety and depression. Like, do you feel like those things are related? It seems like you're kind of talking about them in parallel.
It is kind of one big circle of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we expect everybody else to be perfect. We expect ourselves to be perfect. Yet here we are in the most imperfect world, in one of the most imperfect situations, which is veterinary medicine. There's too many factors that come into it, but I do think that that it's all related. I don't understand why we're so tough on each other and we are so tough on ourselves, because I have seen some of the best doctors question themselves in areas that deserve not a single question. You did perfect. You did great, but I could have done this. No, you didn't. And that's living in the past, which honestly will get you absolutely nowhere. Worrying about the future will get you absolutely nowhere. Being in the now is one of the hardest things that I've ever had to learn how to do, but it is ultimately the best way to be.
What do you find is a solution, whether it's for you or maybe just your time in the field, things that you've seen in other people of resolving that perfectionistic tendency?
So my question to somebody is always like, do you expect your favorite tech, your favorite doctor that you work with to be perfect all the time? And their answer is no, absolutely not. Like they're going to make mistakes. And then I ask them, why do you expect that from yourself? Nobody has ever answered that question for me to where I go, yeah, that's a good point. Now I can expect everyone to be perfect. I've never heard a good answer to that. Why do we treat ourselves so much worse than we treat others, right? Especially in the veterinary field, like because we are all type A's, as we said before. You're always wondering, like, what could I have done better? You wouldn't let your best friend go through that. You would tell them you did the best that you could, and
Right.
that's going to have to do. So for me, the solution is to be kind to yourself, to be patient with yourself. You're going to make mistakes. The only thing we have control over in life is how we react. Your reaction, that's it. So my reaction typically is, yes, I can learn from this. I could have done better, but I'm not going to beat myself up any longer than I would beat somebody else up for it.
We work in a field where we're saving pets' lives. And so if we do make a mistake, the stakes are high.
Yes.
And that it's really hard to sit with that. So like I'll share a vulnerable example. There was one time that I prescribed an ear medication to a pet that had a ruptured eardrum, which I didn't really realize at the time. And things were so busy. There were other cases going on. I was like, oh, it's just like an ear infection. And the pet came back and we had to euthanize it. It was super sick and neurologic. And I remember after that just beating myself up. Like, how could I have done that? Like, I should have been more careful. I know we didn't have the other medication that was safe, but like maybe I could have written a prescription. So I would replay all of that. And then I worry about like the judgment from other people who saw that, because the new doctor was the one who let me know that happened. And so I'm sure other people listening have had some sort of similar situation.
If they haven't, they will.
Yeah, they will.
I'm sorry to tell you, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I do think it's okay to take some time when those things happen and feel sad about that. Like feel sad and honor the pet and say, I could have done better in this situation. I did the best with what was right in front of me, but I'm never going to let that happen again.
Yeah.
That same mistake will never happen again.
No, it won't.
And
For
so,
sure.
and so I think you just do have to take the time to be like, it is sad. We're dealing with life and death. Those things will happen, but you do have to expect that those things are going to happen to some degree, whether that's 5% of the time, hopefully less, whatever it is, but those mistakes are going to happen. And so if you know that going into it, then I think it's important to have the tools to be kind to yourself after, so that you're not like, okay, that happened and I'm just going to push it under the rug and then hope that nothing like that ever happens again. And then, years later, you remember only all of the mistakes that you've done.
Yeah.
Because also, I think if you're going to kind of stew on some of those mistakes, you should also spend time focusing on all of the pets that you save too, and all of the people who you give, so much more time with their pets too. And
But we don't.
right.
Right? If for all the people who are listening and you guys, have you seen The Pit? It's coined the most realistic emergency. It has been coined the most realistic emergency show for humans. There is a scene, and I know that whoever's listening, if you've watched The Pit, you know what I'm talking about. There is a scene where basically the main doctor who's running the floor breaks down, and this guy is an absolute wizard in the ER. And somebody calls him out and he goes, "Are you even going to remember this?" Something along those lines. And he goes, "It's all I remember. I can tell you every single person that I have lost along the way, but I cannot tell you all of the people that I've saved." That's human nature. We are so quick to cling to the negative. And I don't even think it's clinging. I think it just becomes, it's a part of us, right? But the way you were just vulnerable, I think is the key to the solution that we need to be more willing to look at. I'll get vulnerable now. The first time in the ER that I had to give a pet unison, all I'd ever used was cefazolin or anything, some of the unconstituted antibiotics. So instead of asking a question because I didn't want to look stupid, I took about 12 cc's of sterile saline and I put it in my unison bottle. And I gave the dose as it was prescribed. And I ended up overdosing this patient, God knows how much. Patient was hospitalized for well over a week and became neurologic, seizing. It was a real shit show. I melted into a puddle, right? The doctor who was on at the time was one of those like doctors you look up to. And you're like, oh my God, how can I let her down? And again, I will never reconstitute any drug without checking the label and asking 5 questions. All of them I deem as stupid, but I'd rather ask a stupid question after 20 years of doing this than make a mistake that is as detrimental as the ones we made. And again, if you can't relate to any of this, more power to you. You will eventually. Eventually, this is going to happen. And again, back to what I said, the only thing you have control over in that situation is how you're going to react and how you choose to move forward. And it's really hard not to beat yourself up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've talked a lot about the hard things in vet med, and I do think a lot of us know it, but just for anyone listening who kind of needs the reminder or wants to feel some sort of normalcy of what they're going through, like we acknowledge all of the hard parts of vet med. However, we're choosing to focus on some of the lighter areas and some of the good areas because our minds do naturally go to the negative pieces. And so just acknowledging the job is hard. Now, what inspired you to have this new mission? And can you talk to us about what it is and your Instagram and everything that goes? It's more than just an Instagram, but just kind of speak to the spirit of that.
Like I said, I want to bring joy back to veterinary medicine. I want to show people that as serious as our field is, have a little bit of fun in between. Some of my reels are the 30-second dance parties. Seriously, stop every now and then and have a 30-second dance party with your crew. You know, our company that we work for is so fantastic because we do daily huddles, multiple huddles a day. And I make a very big point out of making one of those huddles a fun topic where you get to just shoot the shit with each other, have a good time, check in with your people. And again, getting a pulse on what the team is feeling like that day. My biggest goal is to bring light into our emergency facility because it can be a very dark place. And some days it's easier to do that than others. But when you have a second, like check in with your team, get to know one another. I think the most successful teams are the ones who know each other inside and out and choose to hang out with each other outside of work. And I think that's important that your company not only supports that culture of going and doing fun things, but more importantly, that you yourself practice some level of being grateful. As you said, like, why didn't I focus on the ones that I saved today? Write them down at the end of your shift, stop and look at the ones you saved. Look at the owners that came in crying and screaming and didn't know what was wrong. And you helped them feel better. You helped Fluffy and Max and Bailey and all of those. You helped them feel better. Don't focus on what you didn't achieve. You have to stop and be grateful for what we did achieve. If you don't practice it on a day-to-day basis and you wonder why we cling to the negative, you have a part to play in it. And again, that positivity is very important.
I completely agree. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think at the Evolve Vets, we have a process where you go through essentially like a meditation and reflect. So like you're able to process those feelings, right? Really get it out there. And then we move into a space of like elevation. So, how would you do it next time, right?
Yeah.
So essentially what you were talking about. And then integration is like living out the feeling of letting it go and really investing in that to be able to move forward. Did you ever use tools like that in your process, or like what does your daily pattern look like, or when these situations arise, how do you handle those?
First off, you guys have a term that I found out about today, which I thought was fantastic, which was shift shedding.
Yes, shift shedding.
I honestly, the most genius thing I've ever heard, right, is like, how do you get rid of that weight? And absolutely, meditation, being grateful are all fantastic. I'm reading a book right now, like meditation for fidgety people or something like that. Highly, highly recommend.
Oh, I want to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to know that. I am a
walking
fidgety
meditation.
person.
Yeah. I highly recommend it because it's like meditation and if you would have told me a decade ago, you're going to try meditation, I would have been like, you better get out of here right now. I'm never going to. But meditation has a very much a stigma around it that is just not true. Like, I thought if I was going to meditate, I would need to listen to crazy music and wear funny clothes and like sit on top of a mountain and
crystals.
Yeah, have my crystals, right. No offense to people with crystals. I carry them in my motorcycle
Yeah, we also
jacket.
have crystals.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're crystal girlies.
Yeah, 100%. They keep me safe. They do what they need to do. Put some in the hospital, okay? It's a game changer. But, it's like these tools help. And if you're one of those people like me that wants to criticize that and not actually try to utilize it before you criticize it, you're crazy, like I was, okay? Because millions and millions of people have practiced this and it works.
Yeah.
So who am I to deny that? And then I actually gave it a try. And I said, holy shit, this works. Because meditation isn't about quieting your mind. It's about recognizing what your mind is doing and then being okay with it. And that was my biggest misconception, is like, why isn't my mind shutting off? No, it's recognizing when your mind's not shutting off. And then for me, like, breathing is the one thing I focus on. When you choose to focus on these things that we take for granted, like breathing, or like, I hate running and I run every day, but I hate it. Like, imagine if you wouldn't be able to run. Imagine if your legs weren't working, or for whatever reason, I'm like, when you flip the script on things like that, like, I have a piece of shit car. I hate driving it. You have a car. You don't have to rely on the bus schedule. You don't have to rely on public transportation, right? It's all about perspective. And for me, when I started getting into meditation, I started listening to this book, I was like, holy crap, there's something to this. And then you get deeper and deeper into it. No pun intended. Deeper and deeper. No pun intended, right? You find out that meditation is probably not what you perceived it to be to begin with, and how much it can help you as a human being. 100% recommend. Yeah, meditation if you type in meditation and fidgety in the same sentence, this book's going to come up immediately. Highly recommend. Yeah.
For shift shedding.
Yes, plug for shift shedding
Oh my
and
God, yeah.
reading this book.
What a great term.
So in your story earlier, you had mentioned really having that partner to go to and lean on. Can you tell us a little bit about the impact that this accountability buddy had on your progress and your actions, anything along those lines?
For sure. I mean, there's a fine line between accountability buddy and a mentor. right? So every single hospital has that one person that's just damn good at what they do. And typically I jumped in their pocket immediately. I'm like, teach me your ways. Tell me the hardships you went through. And I like what you guys do, right? You meet up every Sunday and you talk about things and you bounce ideas off of each other. I'm going to give a huge shout out right now to one particular individual. His name is Daniel, and he is absolutely just, he's not even going to take any type of credit for this, but he took me under his wing when I first walked into the ER. And he said, I'm going to teach you everything I know. And he was my mentor. And that mentor and my accountability buddies have changed throughout my career. So for me, quite often, I look at doctors I really respect, or I look at other technicians that I really respect. But I do think you have to create a relationship with those people and say, listen, I'm going to be looking for somebody to hold me accountable. I'm going to be looking for somebody I can sit down and bounce ideas off of, because by that time, when you've established a relationship like that, you can take criticism from that person. You can hear difficult feedback because you've asked for it. And it's almost a way of like taking this sense of control where it's like, okay, yes, this might be difficult to hear, but I asked for it. I need to hear it if I want to continue to improve myself, not only as a technician, a doctor, but just as a human being. But whether it's typically, I always recommend don't let it be a family member, because none of us want to hear from our significant others what we're doing wrong. None of us want to hear from our moms or our dads what we're doing wrong. Like, pick somebody neutral that you respect, that you look up to, that have something that you want, and have them teach you that. I think one of our things at the company we work for, again, is like, that was one of the things when I went through our, it's called a lead library. And basically it just goes through like, how to be a good leader and what to do. And one of them says, get a mentor, get somebody who's been in the field for a long time. And so I found somebody. And my hospital manager, Cole, who I'm going to call out as well, is like such a great sounding board and somebody that I respect dearly. Younger than I am, which that shouldn't be a thing, but he has this serenity and this calmness about him, and he always has a way to flip things around, which sometimes is really annoying, which is why I annoy him on a day-to-day basis. But ultimately, his advice means the world to me, and I want to hear what I screwed up or how I could have approached a difficult situation better.
Do you think that there's a difference between a mentor and accountability buddy, or accountability buddy in your language?
Yeah, it just rolls off.
Evolve bestie. Yeah, evolve bestie in our language.
It just rolls better off.
It does. It's actually quite clever.
Yeah. There's a very fine line, if one at all. Like, I think, a mentor could be seen more as a teacher, and accountability buddy maybe seen more as an equal.
Earlier, we were talking about this idea of like the victim mindset and how that plays into vet med, and a little bit about how the Evolved Vets really wants to transform that and take the martyrdom and toss it aside and really have an empowered approach in not only like the direction that you want to head with your career, but also like how you show up every day in the hospitals.
For sure.
What are your thoughts surrounding that?
Listen, as somebody who is a professional victim, I'll say this, was a professional victim, it served me no purpose. It doesn't allow you to see the big picture and where to grow. If you think you are a victim of circumstances, or you are a victim of other people, and I want it to be very clear that I'm not discrediting anybody that has been through difficult situations or are currently going through a difficult situation. We all have been victims. Absolutely. And some of us may currently be in a situation where you're getting bullied by a coworker, or, your past is haunting you one way or another. You do have a choice in how you react to that. You do have a choice in whether you want to sit in it or fight back. I was a victim of bullying throughout middle school, throughout high school, big time. I did not grow up in the United States of America. I came here fresh off the boat from Holland, and I got bullied. I found out what a kick me sign was. My teacher actually had the entire class, gym class, show me what a wedgie was.
No.
Yeah. This was in the 90s. Okay, listen, that was a different time. And it took me years to look back at that moment and say, damn, that's messed up. Right. But also, like, do I want to go back and go, poor me? Yeah, that sucked. That kid that was in that situation, the old version of me, yes, that sucked. And I'm not discrediting that. And I know that people have been through much worse than I have. But I've got some more stories to also share. But the minute I said, yes, I struggle with depression. Yes, I struggle with anxiety. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to read every book I can find on depression and anxiety. I'm going to talk to people who have been through it. I'm going to talk to people who have helped others get through it, or potentially even try medication. I'm not one of those people that's like, man, don't get on medication because now you're just going to be, My biggest thing with like any type of neuro issues, whether you're depression, anxiety, when it comes to our brain, there's a stigma when we take medications. If I were to tell somebody who's diabetic, whose pancreas isn't working, well, you shouldn't take insulin. What happens to that person? They're going to lose limbs. They're going to die. They're going to go through a really bad time. Yet when it comes to this organ up here, quite often when people are like, well, you have to take, yeah, it's not firing on all pistons, and there's something that can help me. And so for me, it's all of those tools at the same time that I was like, no, I'm not sitting back. I'm not going to be a victim of anything I was diagnosed with previously. And so I decided to do anything and everything I can. And I will say, though, and again, this isn't to defend this type of behavior, but when you're in the middle of depression, when you're in the middle of like struggling with crippling anxiety, as I have, and you're in and out of the ER, and you're in and out of psych evaluation of like what is going on, it is so hard to pull yourself up out of it. So if you choose to spend the day in bed and you don't want to get up, fine, fight tomorrow. Just don't stop. Don't give up, because that's when we lose. Failure is not losing. Failure is okay, what am I going to do different next time? And that's the most important part, is don't sit back in it. Don't be a victim of that, because I'm a testament to somebody who's been through it by my own hand, mainly,